Well, folks, it's game on. Game on. Trump puts out a Truth Social post saying, let's go, baby, and calling out Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, which, by the way, folks, I like all those podcasters. I'm going to be honest with you. I like them, but I know Trump is making people pick a lane. He's making people pick a lane right now for what's coming. What's coming? Well, he just put it on a Truth Social post. Alex, if you could show it right now, I sent it to you. It's the reset. The reset is coming. Now, Trump put this out himself, so I think we're about 6 to 9 months away from what Juanito said. Actually, Juanito gave me some exact dates. I'm going to bring him on today on Nino's Corner.tv to discuss this. You need to be preparing. You need to be preparing. When all this happens, when all of this goes down, folks, legacy media is going. These podcasters that turned on Trump, crooked politicians, the arrests, all of this is going to coincide and kind of come at the same time. We cannot avoid this. We can't get out of the way. It's a big shit sandwich we're all going to take a bite out of. The reset is coming. I repeat, it is coming. But you can be prepared for this. You can be prepared. Folks, hit the notification button. I got SG joining me today. Everybody loves SG. It's going to be a hell of a show, baby. SG's in the back room right now, letting me go through my little spill here. Folks, notification button. Please like, share, and subscribe. Venmo, �D-Rod1977, �D-Rod1977. When the lights go out on Amazon, please leave an honest review. I read all the reviews. I really appreciate it. It's doing very well, this book. I got 5 stars. 5 stars. The Mexican Mix, my mama's book, is doing well also. So it's a package deal. I'd say if you buy one, get the other one. My mama's book. And yes, even with her dementia, I'm reading her the reviews. I didn't know I wrote a book. I'm like, yeah, you did. Who are you again? Oh, it's your son, Mom. Boy, it's tough. Folks, and look, the best way to prepare for this reset that is coming, Trump put it out today, the reset is coming, is getting gold and silver. I cannot stress that enough. I really cannot stress that enough. So let me get into my little spill here. When's the last time you actually held your investment? Not checked an app, not watched a number move on a screen. I mean, physically held it in your hand. That's what I love about gold. It's real, it's tangible, and it's yours. No passwords, no logins, no 6-digit codes. Text it to your phone for access. In a world that's getting more digital, more abstract, more complicated, gold is simple. That's why we're seeing a massive shift into precious metals, and everything moves to the cloud. People are starting to value what they can actually hold in their hand. There's something very powerful about that, and you'll see how powerful it really is. Because real ownership is becoming rare. If you want to see what that looks like for you, go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Noblegoldinvestments.com. Folks, I'm dead serious about this. I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to set my ghetto timer for my mid-roll. Ghetto timer. You all see the little bell in the back there? That's a microwave timer. All right. X is Nino Boxer. X is Nino Boxer. Follow me on X. I'm always putting updates on there, and I'm going to be putting a lot more updates now as we come into this reset. So it's going to be the most important time in history, in human history. Will the lights go out for 10 days? Well, it depends who pulls the plug first, and I got a feeling it's going to be us. So it's going to be who owns the day. It's going to be who owns the day. EBS, Emergency Broadcast System. Esther will talk more about that. And is Trump wanting to pull out of NATO because could we see Israel target Turkey? Could they strike Turkey and bring them into the war? Big possibility. SG talk all about that. Folks, the Live Forever sale is still on Nino's Corner.tv. I'm going to leave it up a little bit longer. People seem to really like it. A lot of people are joining with the Live Forever sale. All you got to do, pay once. You're a lifetime member on Nino's Corner.tv. Hell of a deal, if you ask me. Also, the Ringside with Nino is Wednesday the 15th, 5 p.m. Wednesday the 15th, 5 p.m. We're all going to network, war game, talk about the reset. It's a big community. You all are making a lot of contacts there on Ringside with Nino. I go on for about an hour, and then everyone chops it up for the rest of the night. I leave it running all night long, so if the whole community can war game together and talk and figure things out together. So this is all coming. So Nino's Corner .shop is down there below. Get yourself a hoodie right here, baby. Yeah, I'm wearing it. It's a little cold. It's a little cold today. Nino's Corner hoodie, baby. The hoodie. I'm wearing it right now. They're very comfortable, by the way. They're very, very comfortable. And they're very sexy. I must say they're very sexy. Sexy. Ooh. Yeah. All right. Nino's Corner.tv. SG Anon is going to be up today. Owen Benjamin is up there right now. That was a hell of a very awesome podcast with Owen Benjamin. And that guy knows a lot. He's been in the Hollywood circles. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's kind of left the reservation, went on his own, on a farm, self-sustained, preps. I mean, the guy was a hell of a podcast on Nino's Corner.tv. Also, 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗏 coming on. 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗏's coming on today. We're going to be talking about the reset, how to prepare. He told me exact dates. I'm going to try to pull that out of him. I don't think he even meant to say it, to be honest with you. I don't think he meant to tell me what he told me. Or maybe he did. I don't know. But I'm not going to slip up and say anything. So we're going to talk about we'll talk about the window of time this is coming. And I told you I'm going to do the 10-question thing with Juan, where rapid fire 10 questions. He's going to answer them as fast as he can. I said, no story time, Juanito. No story time. Let's kind of fucking bam, 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 bam. He said he's going to do it. He's going to do it. So I put it out on X, the questions, whatever questions you want to ask, I'm going to go through them as fast as I can. Also, General McInerney's coming on. Stuart Swirlow's coming back on. Nino's Corner.tv. Leo Zagami is coming on. Sheila Holm will be the next general in the General Senate, April 23rd. I think that's at the very end of this month at 5 p.m. Sheila Holm, you're going to want to ask her all the questions you can about the reset. I've been told I need to stress this, man. It's coming. No way out of it. There is absolutely no way out of it. We'll talk about your banking situation, what you must do. We're going to cover all those bases with Sheila Holm, Juan, the community of the Black Sheep family. You have got to get on board, folks. And I left my the monthly fee is or membership. I think it's either $4.99. $4.99. That's it. That's cheap. All right, folks, let's get into this. So this unhinged rant, the unhinged rant by Trump. I thought at first, I was like, this is kind of a little bit distasteful. I don't know. Sounds like a second grader going off. And then I thought about it, and I talked to a few people, and I'm like, what's going on here, man? This seems like just completely uncalled for. I don't know if I can get behind this. To me, I still think he could have handled this a little bit more tastefully, but it is what it is. So I'm going to begin on what's really important today, and I want to bring your attention back to what happened yesterday. No, I don't blame Trump. I don't blame him from losing his cool and lashing out on Candace, Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Lord knows I lash out on my trolls all the time. You get fed up with it. It's like piranhas eating at your ankles while you're trying to make strides, right? And I dealt with this in boxing, and I dealt with this in other things, just like we all do, right? You put out a post and you have the trolls. They come out of the woodworks. They come to get you. Chomp, chomp, chomp. And it gets irritating, especially when, I don't know, like me, I'm taking care of my parents all day long, 24/7. I'm busy dealing with that shit, any day now. I'm expecting a fucking call, and then I'll go to my social media and I'll see all these trolls, right? It's like the last thing you want to deal with. The last thing you ever want to deal with is this shit. But I get it. So I get that Trump lost his cool. I totally understand. We're all only human. We're only human. And Trump, as strong as that man is, I'm sure he gets fed up with listening to Candace, Alex, and all of them take bites out of him. 25th Amendment. I get it. But I still think he should have, what do they say? A gladiator must never get off his chariot to throw tomatoes back at the crowd of peasants. Why go down to their level? That's kind of how I see this. I just don't think he should have done this. And like I said, Alex Jones, I give him a lot of credit for waking me up in my life. I like Candace Owens. I think she's over the target with Erica Kirk. But what's going to discredit Candace is if you get in this lane, if you get into the Trump bashing lane, people will just stop listening to you, man. People are backing the president. I back the president. We're in it now. It's too late. It's like getting in a street fight. The only way I can comprehend this. It's like my friends, right? Like all my buddies that were like, hey, Dave, hey, Nino, what's up? And then we get in a fight at a bar, right? And the whole bar breaks loose. We're all fucking throwing blows. And then my peripheral vision, everything there, when I'm, I can see my friends that are running like girls or like hiding or going under the tables. We used to see that shit. And I'd be like, I know what you didn't do it, and you didn't do it, and you didn't do it. We're in the street fight right now. Here we are. It's going, tables are flying, chairs are thrown everywhere. The bar's breaking out, everyone's throwing, and Trump's in the middle, bop. And you have people turning on you, maybe joining the other side when the shit gets heavy. And you don't think he sees that? Folks, I'm using it as an analogy, obviously, but that's where we're at. We're in the street fight right now. Shit's about to get real. And let me say this. You all still watch your Fox News on your TV, all this. It's not real for you yet. It's going to get real for all of us, just like 9/11, just like COVID. It's going to get real. And SG Anon's going to bring more of that to us today when I begin discussing this with him. So I didn't believe this was a good look for Trump, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it for you all. I know here's Trump's Truth Social post right here. I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones have all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact they think it is wonderful for Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon because they have one thing in common: low IQs. Now, I wouldn't go that far, okay? I would never go that far. But they're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it. And everyone else knows it, too. Look at their past. Look at their record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. They all have been thrown off television, lost their shows. They aren't even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers, and will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. Now they think they get some clicks because they have third-rate podcasts, but nobody's talking about them, and their views are the opposite of MAGA, wouldn't have won the presidential election in the landslide. MAGA agrees with me, and just gave CNN 100% approval rating of Trump, not hand-flailing fools like Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college. He was a broken man when he got fired from Fox. He's never been the same. Perhaps he should go see a psychiatrist. Or Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question, or crazy Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man, when she is not, and will hopefully win lots of money in the ongoing lawsuit. Actually, to me, the First Lady of France is far more beautiful than Candace. In fact, it's not even close. Oh, man. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. These so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be. Now fake news CNN, the failing New York Times, and all the other radical left news organizations are hailing them and giving them positive press for the first time in their lives. They're not MAGA. They're losers, just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on my side anytime I want to. But when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times, they go nasty, just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff. I only care about doing right for our country. MAGA is about winning the strength and not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again, and these people have no idea how to do that, but I do, because the United States is now the hottest country anywhere. This is crazy. Now, I don't know how you all feel about this. I kind of was like, wow, man, that's a little unhinged for a president. I like to see him keep his poise, his composure. It'd be like a fighter in the ring losing his temper. I wish he didn't do this, but then again, I've talked to a few people and they said, look, they got to pick their lane. He's letting the public know who they are, and they got to pick their lane. People have got to pick their lane. And MAGA is fractured. Now, you want to say these people are compromised? I don't know. I have no proof into that. I have no validation in that. Like I said, I tend to I listen to some of these podcasters. I love listening to Candace on her take on Erica Kirk, Alex Jones. I love Alex Jones. Tucker Carlson. I just can't believe the fracture in MAGA. Now, I don't know if they're compromised, if they're taking money, or they just have their own points of view that don't match up with the president. And everyone is allowed a voice in America. You're allowed to express your opinions. So let's look at what they have said about Trump. So this is what they have said. Remember, this is exactly what these podcasters have said. Alex Jones, his team, this is what Alex Jones said. His team needs to grab him and 25th his ass and commit him. 25th his ass and commit him. Those were powerful words from Alex Jones. Candace Owens, he sacrificed Charlie Kirk. Trump is a madman, and other countries need to move to have him removed. Those are powerful statements, folks. Megyn Kelly, just shut the fuck up. He is disgusting. He can't behave like a normal person. Tucker Carlson, vile on every level. Who do you think you are? Then went on to insinuate he's the Antichrist. These are serious statements. I mean, honestly, I don't blame Trump for reacting the way he did. I still think he should have kept his composure, but he definitely put them all on blast, and I don't think this is going to work out too well for any of them. You can't go against Trump in a time like this. We're all in this street fight together. That's just the truth of it. We're all throwing chingazos a todo madre together. We're all doing this together. We're all fisticuffing it out right now together, and it's going to get real, folks, so you better pick your lane. You really better pick your lane. You better figure out who you're going to fucking listen to. And I got to tell you, Nino'sCorner.tv is the place to be. We've been talking about this for years. Here it comes. The reset is coming. Better pull up your bootstraps. Better get ready. Start listening to people that will not lead you astray. Let's focus. Let's keep our eyes on the ball. So now let's get to what I also wanted to talk about on this show that I was formulating for the morning show before all this crazy shit happened and yesterday with Candace Owens and blah, 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 Trump. The MAGA fracture, the civil war within MAGA. Let's talk about what I really want to talk about here with SG. It's the moment of truth. It is now the moment of truth. Will Trump bow to Benjamin Netanyahu, or will Trump draw the line in the sand and cut the puppet strings forever? This is the moment of truth, and this is where this is the lane I'm in. There's a line, wow. There's a line in the sand drawn right now with MAGA. Now more than ever, MAGA is divided. It's kind of like the new left, right? It's the new, this is like what they would do. They would totally infiltrate and take over the right. And that's what they're doing. I believe most of this movement is to divide. MAGA is absolutely engineered. Many podcasters are voicing their opinions and distaste for Trump on air, rallying their supporters. Nick Fuentes is another one. I mean, they're all fucking together, man. It's like they've all teamed up, and it's like the people and nobody knows this better than me. The people you think that you're friends, fuck, they turn on you, man. They fucking turn on you. After my boxing career, man, I couldn't believe the friends that just, whoa, wow, you're not my friend, are you? Ulterior motives, opportunists, really shitty people, man. hanging out on my coattails for one thing only. And then the minute they got that chance to turn, they turned. The minute they got that little chance. And when I finally lost, and that 36-0 record came to an end, they were fucking gone. And they were all celebrating my losses. So you have some of MAGA that understand there's an operation at hand, and Trump is a wartime president. This is what it looks like to get your hands dirty and clean up the mess that Bush, the Clintons, and Obama's made as the puppets for the global elite. War is ugly, lots of deception, lots of confusion. There's nothing pretty about this, but we're in it. And this is why I voted for Trump. You do understand the citizens of Iran stand with Trump. The citizens of Iran actually stand with Trump and celebrate Trump's efforts in what he is doing right now. You do understand a fraudulent globalist extremist regime hijacked Iran and has even since held not only Iran, but the entire world hostage to what they could do. Everyone's nervous, not only in Iran, not only in the Middle East, globally, because everyone knows, all the world leaders know that Iran is going to be used for a nuclear holocaust. Trump is eliminating this threat in real time right now. But, and this is a big but, and I'm going to get SG's view on this as well. Here's where I draw the line. What is Trump going to do with Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel? You know, Benjamin Netanyahu said something that rang very true to me, as ugly as it sounded. He said something along the lines of, I posted it up on Telegram, but unfortunately, Jesus Christ does not, I think the way he said it was, have an advantage of Genghis Khan. Evil will always persist, and it'll always win if you don't stop it. And sometimes you got to play by their rules. Now, I completely butchered it. That's not like what he said. I forgot already because, hey, yo, punches to the head, Apollo. But something along those lines. You can go look at my Telegram. Folks, you're not going to back out of a street fight by saying, oh, can we be friends? Can we hug it out, please? Please, Susano? Susano, can I have a kiss? Please let me hug you. You get your face knocked off. It's not the way it works. It's just not the way it works. You can't negotiate with a terrorist. So, what is Trump going to do with Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, especially as Bibi completely goes off the rails and comes off unhinged in his last speech regarding Iran? Are they playing good cop, bad cop? Or are the tensions rising between Benjamin Netanyahu and Trump? Is Trump going to continue playing as his, what it seems to look like his little bitch? Or is there going to be a bigger plan here at play? I'm waiting to see this. Especially if Israel attacks Turkey. Now, a lot of you are saying, wait, what? What are you talking about here? Let's just hypothesize here. What if Israel attacks Turkey? Is this why Trump is trying to pull out of NATO? Because under the obligations of NATO, if Israel had struck Turkey, the U.S. obligations under NATO would depend on how NATO interprets the attack and whether Article 5 is invoked. Here's the short answer. The U.S. would likely be politically obligated to help Turkey, but not automatically required to go to war with Israel. Turkey is a NATO member. Israel is not. Turkey joined NATO in 1952. Israel is not part of NATO. So if Turkey were attacked on its territory, it could ask NATO to intervene or respond. Article 5, attack on one is an attack on all. If Turkey claimed the strike was an armed attack, it could request NATO to invoke Article 5. An attack on one NATO member is considered an attack on all. Each member must assist the attacked country. However, there are two extremely important limitations. Article 5 is not automatic. NATO members must agree politically that the attack qualifies. Each country chooses how to help. Assistance can include military force, intelligence sharing, air defenses, logistics, and sanctions. What the U.S. would likely have to do If Article 5 were invoked and accepted, the U.S. would likely, possibly, U.S. actions, deploy air defense systems to Turkey, provide intelligence and surveillance, send naval or air forces to the region, coordinate NATO military planning, impose diplomatic and economic pressure on Israel. So we know Trump wouldn't want to do that because he's playing ball with Israel right now. So where does that leave us? Well, I think Benjamin Netanyahu's sights are on Turkey. And I think that may be why Trump is wanting to pull out of NATO. SG, for being so patient, brother. I'm sorry it took so long, a little longer than I wanted to. So sorry. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Nino. Good to be here, and a great setup for the discussion today.
Yeah, right. Okay, so here we are, man. You know, MAGA's gone wild. MAGA's gone wild. And this is all coming to a point where Trump puts out a Truth Social post saying the reset, right? Get ready, the biggest reset the world's ever seen. Your thoughts, SG?
Well, I think my thoughts are, how many times before it's mathematically impossible? We've seen President Trump making overtures to resets and rebalancings and revaluations and getting the manipulation out of the currency markets and cleaning up the finance markets and getting the leverage, the debt leverage against the American citizens down per household, per capita for the whole GDP. The man's been talking about it forever. He just hasn't been using the overt language that we've now seen. But we've sort of known that all of this is coming, right? When we look back at the meeting between him and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in September of 2018, I believe it was shortly before, if I'm not mistaken, the executive order 13848 that targeted foreign interference in a United States election. And at that press conference, he told the entirety of the world, we are going to level the playing field with respect to currency itself, with respect to how money itself is valued monetarily as well as fiscally. There's slight differences between the two, but the differences are important. And monetary is a reflection of the intrinsic value of the object, whatever that object that's being used to trade is worth. And there has to be a standardized agreement, at least on the measurement of how that value is calculated, or you can't have a system that operates on all of the same levers, right? You've got some systems operating on squares and other systems are operating on circles. And that's what we have going on around the world right now. And so he's been talking about this issue at least since that meeting. Really before that, when you look at the man's rhetoric about all the stuff that Obama did and the tweets that have surfaced from the 2009 to 2016 timeframe from President Trump, he's been talking about Iran and how Iran received a ton of cash from the Obama administration. Where do we think that cash went? Well, it went to the closed financial apparatus that existed between private Russian oligarchs, Tehran, and individuals that were tied to the North Korean military in North Korea. And so if you're trying to drain that dark money pool, if you're trying to set things right again, what do you have to do? Well, you have to eliminate at least one part of the triad. In this case, I think the part that was chosen was clearly Iran. And then you have to have the ability to shape the world markets in such a fashion that a standardized measurement of value, as well as a redefinition of trade locally from this international importation to more local and regional stuff, you have to do all of that in order to arrive at something called a reset. Well, that's exactly the process we've been witnessing, Nino, not just since Iran, but since Venezuela, the very first part of this year. Venezuela was a hedge, a security blanket, a buffer for the things that are going on right now. It also allowed us to redefine the entirety of Western hemispheric trade routes. We're going after the Panama Canal next to ensure that that trade route is secured for this particular hemisphere. And that forces the rest of the world, specifically the black market criminal crime syndicate that exists out there, but also the rest of the legal trade and lawful trade and commerce that occurs. But it forces all of it to redefine how it's going to move itself moving forward. In other words, it's a complete redefinition, a complete reshaping of how these countries interact with one another, both regionally, internationally, and regionally, from a sense of like immediately locality, like the Far East Asian sphere versus the African sphere versus the Gulf states. And on top of all of that, Nino, you can't have a reset until you pull the thumbs off all of the various scales that exist around the world with respect to resource control. And where does a lot of that exist? It exists in Africa, it exists in South America, and it exists in the Arab Middle East, and the various Eurasian steppes, and a little bit over into the South and Southeast Asian corridors. And when you look at the history of the intelligence community implantation and infiltration of itself over the last 75 years, every single one of those areas was a hotbed for that focalized effort, for those nodes of control that were beyond U.S. jurisdiction, but functioned within the constructs of the previous international law. This is the world's most powerful reset because it's resetting money, it's resetting trade, it's resetting resource management, it's resetting nation-state relations with one another, it's resetting cultural inhibitions inside of nation-states that have been terrorized by their own governments, most of which were propped up by the CIA over the last 75 years. It could not be a more exciting time to watch these things play out.
So I was given, a window of time of when a lot of these operations must be completed, and I'm sure you know that as well. I know we'll talk about that more on ninoscorner.tv after this program, folks. We're going to go to .tv and talk about the reset specifically and talk about the EBS and how to prepare and go into that. You want to do that, right, SG?
That would be fine with me.
So one of the things that I'm looking at here is Turkey, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I feel like this is one of the things that needs to be wrapped up before the reset, the plug gets pulled. And when I talk about the plug being pulled, folks, I'm talking about, yes, it is as extreme as what you're hearing. 10 days of darkness, cell phones don't work, nothing works. It's 10 days. For a lot of people, this is going to be living hell if they're not preparing. You're hearing the same thing, correct, SG?
I am, and the window of time that I've been told, I'll just get it out for your audience out there, is anywhere over the next 6 to 9, maximum of 6 to 12 months when we look at this
That's
process
exactly what I was
itself
told.
out.
It's exactly what I was told.
And when you look at what has to happen, it makes a lot of sense that we would be in those in-game sort of Revelation style, points in the story.
Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Are we talking to like you? You're dialed in, aren't you, brother? I mean, that's exactly the two numbers: 6 and 9, 6-9 months. Wow.
Well, and again, when we look at the pace of events, we can sort of gauge the immediate future to a degree, not prognostication with any sort of like clairvoyance, but just an educated hypothesis about what is to come and the pace of it coming by looking at the pace of things over the last, say, 12 months and trying to find points of acceleration. How many points did we accelerate? How far did we come? What are the things that transpired? And when we examine that, we can clearly see that after Trump hit office again in 2025, this became full throttle, and not just for making America great or healthy again or making America an industrial power again. All of those things come throughout the process, but we're full throttle to completely eviscerate and eradicate the Luciferian central banking cabal's control worldwide. And so we have to keep in mind, we're fighting this sort of cultural war at the nation state level. Yes, we're dealing with our own cultures. We're dealing with agreements or disagreements with one another. All of those things are happening. But the real war is in the supranational space, where you have transnational interests and entities that have controlled huge swaths of the planet, primarily from the background. And that control has acted as a lever for them to sort of shift the entire balance of geopolitics however they needed it to be shifted. And that war did not stop under Joe Biden. It actually accelerated under Joe Biden. Then it accelerated again under President Trump over this last year. I guess we're coming into like 14 months at this point, 15 months. And so looking over the next 6 to 12, based on everything that has happened in the last 14 to 15 months, we can say that the death of NATO is on the table. We can say that a nuclear armament scare event of some kind is now officially on the table, because we've been escalating in those directions. The rhetoric, as well as the kinetic geopolitical behavior, now sort of supports that inevitability. We have that now coming from Moscow. We've got that coming from Pakistan. We've got that coming from India, all of them voicing concerns about things going nuclear. We know that the situation between Turkey and Israel, I've been telling people for 3 years that it's going to be the Ottoman Turks that really completely rebalance the power dynamic in the Middle East. Ancient Persia was one of these major things that had to happen. We had to clean out the infestation and intelligence community damage that's been done there and start the healing process. We're just now in the very early days of that. We're talking like, a day and a half old infant with respect to the timeline with that. But the Turks are a pretty strong nationality and culture and have maintained a lot of that cohesiveness and vigor with one another in a way that the Iranians just haven't been able to do. Their cultures are different. They've been different for thousands of years. It's just how they think. And when we clean out the intelligence infestation inside of Ankara, of which I'm not so certain that Erdogan may not be a factional part of, he's sort of a gray hat actor to me in a lot of ways. But when that clean out process begins, you're going to see a much broader conflict in the Middle East, and it will be the knife which cuts the throat of NATO. NATO will not participate in this conflict, and I do not believe the United States will participate in any sort of Article 5 invocation if an attack from Israel on Turkey happens. And we know that they're sort of saber rattling in that direction and have been for a couple of years now. And when you look at the disagreements about territorial control over components of the Syrian desert, especially post-Syrian civil war, and you look at the inflammability, if you will, the ignition point being so low with a lot of that in that area, I think that we could see that happening anytime in the coming weeks or months. And looking at that and seeing how that plays out would also provide a great deal of perspective, if you will, is maybe the better way to put it, but certainly an evaluation basis on which to judge the relationship between Tel Aviv and Washington, D.C. And at that point, I think you would have a lot of different world leaders, as well as, you know, enormous swaths of population groups across the West, sort of understanding implicitly that this is an unhealthy and abnormal relationship, and something has to change here with this. And so that puts all the pressure again back on Israel, even in a further, more intense way. I think you could see Egypt involved in a conflict like that over control of the Suez Canal, probably spawned off by attacks on them from Iranian proxies or Turkish proxies across the Yemeni countryside, and maybe even in the areas immediately south of Egypt along that Red Sea border towards Ethiopia. So this is an incredible time, Nino. It's just an amazing time to be alive. I think the events that are to come are going to reshape how we think about Western politics. I think they're going to reshape how we understand the need to be prepared for things, how we understand how to evaluate the information ecosystem with one another. It's certainly going to wake a lot of people up to how the financial control has been comported over the last 100 years. I mean, this is truly, again, it's a terrifying and exhilarating and thrilling all at the same time era to be alive and to witness.
Yeah, we're breaking away from the old guard. This is what it looks like. Trump is a wartime president. He's here to roll up his sleeves, get his hands dirty. None of this is going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. So you better get ready for a bumpy ride, folks. Trump moles pulling U.S. troops out of NATO countries opposing Iran war. So President Donald Trump is considering moving U.S. troops from North Atlantic Treaty Organization members that have not backed the war against Iran and moving them to more supportive countries. The Wall Street Journal reported Wednesday, while he also moles trying to withdraw the U.S. altogether from NATO. So this looks like it's coming, folks. And I bet you it comes within the next 6 to 9 months, okay? That's what I'm going to guess. Also, Laura Loomer, an activist close to Donald Trump, reports that an active coup is taking place in the Pentagon with the aim of removing Pete Hegseth, the head of the Defense Department or Department of War, from his position. All of this is coming out right now, folks. I'm telling you, I guess we could call it now, right, SG? A civil war is erupting within MAGA. It's happening, and it's happening within our government. There's a coup happening now within the Pentagon. This is all coming to a head, and right on time as we come into the Great Reset, right, SG?
Well, I think you're living through the wheat and chaff moment that the good book talks about. And there was always going to have to be an intense shaking of the consciousness tree, if we can use that metaphor, in order to shake out fruit that's dead, leaves that are dead, things that are poisoning the overall tree. And when we look at that, consciousness is everything. It extends to behavior. It extends to politics, finance, business, law, information, opinions, how communications are relayed, who's doing the communicating. All of it is an extension of that Holy Spirit of God and the consciousness that it sustains for all of us here in this world. And so looking at what we see happening inside the Pentagon, I'm not at all surprised. I've been expecting some sort of malevolent event coming from that Pentagon bureaucracy against Hegseth for quite a while now. I think President Trump is actively taking advantage of this intense situation, both nationally and internationally and domestically. And I think President Trump is actually waging multiple psyops. I think some of these psyops are designed on purpose to inflame different segments of the population, because how does one unify groups that can't find any common ground peacefully? You have to give them a common enemy. You have to force them into a situation where they have to evaluate what their opinions are about individuals that they've connected with that they really like. You have to sort of, as you said in your pre-show, force people into deciding and picking a lane. And sometimes that lane is their lane. They have to pick a lane that meets with what they understand to be true. And that lane tends to be the one where all of us feed at that water hole the most wholesomely, is for lack of a better expression of it. We get the best diversity of opinion. We get the best diversity of debate. We get the true meaning of diversity, not that leftist ridiculous stuff that they've been throwing at us for a number of years now. And so I think with all of this, you have the country self-examining. I think you have individuals that are absolutely playing a part in the information ecosystem. One of the ones that you mentioned in your pre-show, is the newest member of what I like to call the Boot Club. And the Boot Club tends to be something that suggests that there's much more behind the scenes, and that certain intense conversations have taken place with entities that maybe don't want to be seen in the light of day. And I'll let your audience take that for how they will. And so looking at that, you can clearly tell that there is some sort of aim here to manipulate the consciousness on purpose. Whether that aim is positive, whether that aim is negative, I think that remains to be seen. But President Trump knows that that's the game that we're all sort of playing with one another. And the man is an absolute genius tactician when it comes to these types of things. When you look at the statements from Iran, for example, or about Iran, an entire civilization, I think was the word, will die tonight, or something like that. I mean, Nino, come on. We all know that the president cannot vaporize 90 million Persians and then maintain any sort of legacy status here in the United States or anywhere around the world after this period of time is over. And he has to think about his 19-year-old son at this point. So looking at that, I think you have genius level psychological warfare being played, and it's scaring all of the right people. It's not just worrying those surface level thinkers, the onlookers who are going, oh my gosh, how could you say something like that? But it's freaking out the remnants of the deep state opponents that we have, who do have certain footholds inside the information space. They have certain footholds inside the financial space and resource control space. Although interestingly enough, a lot of those physical world footholds have been blown to smithereens just since the Iranian war started a couple of weeks, well, I guess it's been 4 or 5 weeks ago now. So looking at all of this, we're living through a period of time that the entirety of America is sort of splitting at the seams, hungering for some sort of absolution, some sort of, basis from which to draw from, standardized basis, some sort of stability zone, for lack of a better comparison of it. And that comes through a few different fashions, but one of the fashions it comes through is certainly a reset, which is what President Trump has described. And it also comes through a spiritual maturation, which I think we're also being driven through because of comments like what President Trump made. We have to go and make up our own mind. It's time to think for ourselves.
SG, stay with me. I'm going to read a mid-roll real quick, folks, and I want to talk about Melania Trump, and basically saying, hey, let's listen to the testimonies from the victims. So we're going to get into that next, folks. But first, get your chapter. Alex, if you can run the number up there real quick. Just some real talk for a second, folks. You know me. I love this country. I love God, and I love my family. And when it comes to my family, I don't play around. I've watched people close to me go through the Medicare process, and I'll be honest, it's confusing, it's overwhelming, and it's horrific. And there are a whole lot of brokers out there more interested in their commission than in finding a plan that works for you. That didn't sit well with me, so I went looking for something better, not for clicks, not for sponsorships, but for my family and for you. That's why I partnered with Chapter and recommend them to everyone I know. They actually compare every Medicare plan available. They walk you through it. They walk you through it in plain English, no pressure, no games, just straight answers. And here's what I respect the most: if you're already on the right plan, they'll tell you that's the integrity of this company. On average, they've helped people save about $1,100 a year, and much more than that. If you're willing, if you're 65 or older and already on Medicare, do yourself and your family a favor. Call Chapter now. It's free. It takes about 20 minutes, and you can put real money back in your pocket. There's the number right there, folks, going across the screen, 212-433-2495, 212-433-2495. Folks, it's worth it. Believe me. Believe me. All right. So, Melania Trump denies ties to Jeffrey Epstein and calls on Congress to hold a hearing for survivors. In a rare public statement, Melania Trump, the First Lady, on Thursday said she never had a relationship with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein or his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. In her remarks from the White House, she said that there have been numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me circulating on social media. Her statement was brief, but was notable. The First Lady is cautious in her public remarks and with her public image. A number of her aides gathered to watch her statement in the grand foyer of the White House, but several of them did not know what she was going to say beforehand. It was the first time Melania Trump had spoken out about Epstein's controversy on camera, but her staff has been aggressive at knocking down what they call defamatory Epstein rumors. The First Lady's senior advisor, Mark Beckman, said in a statement that the First Lady decided to speak out now because enough is enough and the lies must stop. It is time for the public and media to focus on her incredible achievements as First Lady, the lives she has positively impacted, and her commitment to our nation, Beckman said. Her remarks came after the Justice Department told the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday that former Attorney General Pam Bondi will not comply with a subpoena to provide testimony next week before the panel. The false smears about me from the mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name to gain financially and climb politically must stop, Melania Trump said. So here it comes, SG. More on a lot of people thought this is going to just fade away. It's not fading away. And I think what a perfect and opportune time is now for this stuff to start coming out. What do you say?
I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I have to admit, the statement from Melania Trump, we don't get a lot from 𝗀𝗏𝗏. Singularly, she's sort of there with the president a great deal of the time. Remarks.
You cut out, SG. SG, you cut out. All right, well, until he gets going again, folks, these things happen. Technical difficulties. It's all part of the game. Who runs the show? Benjamin Netanyahu rejects President Trump's ceasefire and says the war will continue against Iran at any time he chooses. Netanyahu says he will achieve his objectives through further military action.
Check. 1, 2.
Oh, here we are. All right, so go for it. Go for it.
All right, I apologize about that. But with respect to Melania, I think it's absolutely brilliant. What we've got going on with 𝗀𝗏𝗏 is attention being drawn back to this issue. This issue is not going away. We've been telling people this for a while. I know that you have been talking about it on your show for at least 4 or 5 years at this point, maybe longer. The Epstein example, and it is an example, is how the corruption has managed to maintain the shadow state control that it has, and how it has gotten infested at every power level. That's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize about what Epstein teaches us. This entire web was able to entrench itself at all power levels because of the types of activities that it facilitated and the types of parties that it had to bring together at the very top of the pyramid and at the very bottom of the pyramid in order to make this system of control and basically human slavery work. And so looking at that, Melania Trump bringing this forward in a very public fashion while keeping that image pristine and what I think to be mostly unmarred, and willing to go to the mattresses to defend her image, which I think is very important. And it also tends to suggest when someone actually believes that they have the truth on their side versus when they're sort of just bluffing and blustering. But the other thing that it does is it puts the pressure now back on Congress to hold these discussions with individuals that were actually there. And if you read just even a tenth of the files that were released in January of this year with respect to the communications between Epstein and all sorts of power pulpits around the world, from private finance and private fashion and business to academia to government, and more, and even in the very high level banking sector, calling himself a very good friend of the Rothschilds, I think was in one of those discussions. When you look at that entire landscape of how that is affected, just imagine what we would hear from the individuals who saw some of it from the inside. And we know that entire process has to play itself out. It has to become a part of public record. It has to be adjudicated in the courts. As much as people want the names and they love the names, I want to go on a non sequitur really quick and come back to this core discussion about what Congress has to do. But we cannot be given all of these names in advance, and the reason for that is because if we want convictions to stick long term, there has to be no route on appeal. And one of the things that gets you an immediate appeal, as long as it goes before an appellate court that's objective with the judiciary, is a constitutional violation that happened in your initial court trial. And if you can prove that violation affected what's called the integrity of the due process. And so having your name plastered on national media 24 hours a day in the lead up to your trial, you would be able to make the case very easily that no jury in the entirety of the United States is untainted or could have been untainted for your conviction. And so you end up getting out on appeal, most likely in that scenario, and double jeopardy prevents you from being charged for it again. So as much as people want the names and they want to know who did this stuff, those types of things do in fact have to stay redacted until we arrive at the point where broader law enforcement investigations that are being conducted by the book according to the rule of law and being run all of the way to the end of the gate are able to conclude themselves. J.D. Vance has told us just in the last 9 months that there's active investigations going on that the public cannot know about. Actually used the term public cannot know about yet. We know that 𝗀𝗄ci 𝗵𝗵𝗃 and various components of the ONI and the FBI are involved in investigating what happened with election and before, going all the way back to Russiagate. We know that Epstein was at least involved in the design of the event that occurred in 2020, and that could be looked at as potential interference from an electoral standpoint. So when you look at how these all tie themselves together, the human trafficking component is just one of the very big pieces of the pie. And that brings me back to Congress and what Congress has to do. We have to hold the record here and air the record out that the United States government knew about human trafficking, knew about what was going on, that the DOJ, FBI, various intelligence agencies and communities all understood what was happening to these people. A lot of times these people were being trafficked to these agencies and these institutions. And so we cannot trust their current form. They must be reformed. They must be transformed in a way that represents actual due process, actual protection of the innocent until proven guilty, the protection of sovereignty in a free and fair society. That's where these discussions go. It's so much more than just who was hanging out with Epstein on an island.
So I'm going to get into this. Who runs the show? Benjamin Netanyahu rejects President Trump's ceasefire and says the war will continue against Iran at any time he chooses. Netanyahu says he will achieve his objectives through further military action under his command. We are ready to resume the fighting at any moment. Our fingers on the trigger. So how do we get rid when this is all done? How are we saving Israel for last? How do you need to prep for the Great Reset? We'll be talking about that and much, much more on Nino'sCorner.tv. SG, let's cover this on .tv right after this show. Stay with me 1 second. You want to stick around for some What the Fuck news real quick?
Sounds good. God bless all. Good to be here.
All right. Stay with me, SG. Expert warn. Okay, in What the Fuck news, this is crazy. If you all believe this, our 𝗫𝗎𝗄 craft shuttle is up in space right now. I'm losing faith in humanity. I'm losing faith in humanity. Oh, boy. Listen to this, folks. Expert warns our 𝗫𝗎𝗄 crew not to fart or they could be in danger. You mean you built this craft to go through the Van Allen radiation belt, go to the moon, but if they fart, the whole thing can blow up. I'm not kidding. I think this is how they troll the public. I think this is really how they troll the public. There's one perhaps unusual problem the crew of NASA's our 𝗫𝗎𝗄 has to be mindful of while aboard the spacecraft, and that's their farts. In an interview with CTV News science and technology expert Dan Riskin addressed the potential repercussions of a space bathroom of flatulence catastrophe, particularly in light of the fact that our 𝗫𝗎𝗄's lunar loo temporarily stopped working April 3rd. The crew called, so they had a sewage backup. But, they're hurling through space. They're going all the way to the moon. They're going to slingshot around the moon. The dark side of the moon come back to Earth, never having to refuel. Nah, they don't need to refuel. They don't need to. They would have to. Honestly, I think it's been estimated by experts for our 450,000 mile travel to the moon and back. You'd have to refuel like something where between 15 and 20 times. But they don't need to. And they're going to avoid every space rock and meteor along the way, not knowing what's out there, uncharted. Folks, we don't even explore the bottom of the ocean. And you expect me to believe these people are slingshotting around the moon? Give me a break. In an interview on CTV News, science and technology expert Dan Riskin addressed the potential repercussions of a space bathroom of flatulence catastrophe, particularly in the light that our team it's Lunar Lou, temporarily stopped working April 3rd. The crew called into mission control and was forced to remove the urine hose from the toilet's cradle in order to reactivate it, which fortunately did the trick. God, it sounds like a Southwestern flight, a Southwest Airlines flight. Astronaut Christina Koch celebrated the feat, laughing about being a space plumber. I don't doubt maybe they're in lower orbit. I don't know where they think they are. I don't know. I don't even doubt it. Everyone on mission control believes this shit. They're probably watching screens. They all think it's real. I don't know how big this hoax goes, but I just. Anyway, she says, I'm proud to call myself the space plumber, she joked. I like to say that it is probably the most important piece of equipment on board. Riskin explained the space bathroom process to CTV News. Solid organic waste is stored and returned to Earth, while liquid waste is released into space. Hey, you're polluting space. Although our team has chosen Lunar Lou is now up and running, he cautioned that the issue of farts remains, especially in a spacecraft that's approximately the size of 2 minivans. God, this thing is the size of 2 minivans. The gases that come out when you pass gas are flammable. He said it's hard to make them go away. But I thought you're in a vacuum. I thought space is a vacuum. I guess there's oxygen inside the spacecraft, but how does the propulsion work? Folks, all I know is I have a lot of questions. That's it. I just have a lot of questions regarding this. And this is why this is today's What the Fuck News. All right, folks, let's take some super chats real quick. Any super chats, Alex? Kelly Paneski, you're always there for me. Thank you so much. Super sticker, thank you. Jerry C. Big Shot Blues, definition of crazy. When you try to explain everything as fake with central casting players in the hope you wake up. I be cray. Yeah, I feel you. Trust me. How do you think I feel every day? Juan Morales. Juan Morales. I think it's being done on purpose. Trump knows exactly how influential these four are, so he's trolling the media. God bless America and the world. Great job, Sancho. I knew you'd like it. Thank you, Juan Morales. Jim Barbado, thank you so much for the super sticker. Kelly Panetsky, thank you again. Thank you, sweetheart. Juan Morales is back. What makes a good movie? Good actors. AJ, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Megyn Kelly are his biggest supporters. It's fake that they turn on him, just like the moon landing. Make America great again. Yeah, maybe. I'm open to that. I know Tucker's very close with Trump. But Candace, I don't know. I think hers can be legit. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, folks. Next one. Jim Barbado, 1487. Thank you. Super sticker. And that is all. SG, I will see you on the back channel. Let's talk about the Great Reset. Let's talk about Benjamin Netanyahu saving Israel for last. How is Trump going to achieve this? Let's war game this. All right, SG, stay with me just one moment. All right, folks, I'm out of here. And the new heavyweight champion of podcasting and the black sheep of broadcasting. Later, folks.